Hey again. So last lesson we signed in a user. That person was able to get to the course, which worked, but they were also able to, knowing the URL, navigate to an admin page. So we want to be able to restrict that by doing a few things. We want to be able to flag a user as an admin, and so that way that kind of user can get to those pages, but others can't. So what we'll do to demonstrate that is to build this users table where I can do that flagging. And then we'll take an admin user and we'll sign into the app. We'll go to the lessons admin page where we'll add a button, which is a sign out button. So we can sign that person out and then sign in again as a non admin, go to the course page, and then try to get to that lessons admin page again. But we'll set up another action to make sure that if they try to do that, they're just going to get redirected to another page. I think I'll probably go to the home page or maybe the course page. So in order to focus this lesson on those actions, I've pre-built out a few things that I'll just walk through, and then we'll move on to the actions and set those up live. So first I set up a user list row. So using the same kind of list row we've used a couple times before for our lessons. And then again, deleted out the things I'm not going to use and just reconfigured the things I want to use. So within the row content, I believe I just made this flex row and align items center to make them center vertically. And then I've used two text boxes. So one, which is user email, which styled as a paragraph. So we have our font size that we want, and then some margin on the right. And notice I'm using a fixed width here. I'm going to do that for both this user email and this admin status, so that when I use this list row as a list of rows on this page, I'm putting in a header, and I want that header to align with the data rows. So this is not like pushing out and then the admin status is a little further to the right than other rows. So I'm going to use fixed row here and here, and then the same width fixed row on those header elements that go above them. Then made sure I connected this record value to my data. So from field users, and recall when we sign up, we mapped the email address from the email input to the login ID on the users table. So that's what's going to show here. That'll show the email address of the person that signed up. And remember, we also created this admin status field in our users collection. And when someone signed up, we by default assign them a status of 0. So meaning false. You're not an admin, or at least not yet. So let's peek in here. We know that we wanted to map this to our users data collection in that data field that we created, the admin status. And then we added some styling. We did paragraph again to make our font size correct. We put a little more margin on the right to push that button out a bit to the right. And we didn't go as wide as the email element because we don't know how long some of these email addresses are going to be coming in. Hopefully 300 pixels will cover that. But we know that admin status is either going to be 0 or 1. So we'll just keep that at 100 pixels. And then we're putting that cursor of text on it because we want to be able to change this in a couple of ways. We're either going to click on it to edit it, to change it to 1, or we're going to add a button here and give an action to that button to make that user an admin by changing it to 1 and then saving it in the data. But we'll cover those in the actions portion of this lesson. So we'll keep going. We have our button, which all I did was give it the secondary color, that dark blue, and then rename it, make admin. So let's go back. And then the other thing we did was create another new page called users admin. And then one thing I forgot here, we put the residence data listener on for this page on binding to listen to the user's data this time, and then used our page properties of body styling. So we did the body styling up here as well. And then all I have is a container that holds a container for the header row and the list of rows of the users. So the list of rows we pulled in, we attached it to the admin list row page that we just created, and then connected to the user's data collection. And then we're just getting all fields, and we're not doing any kind of sorting because I don't think we really need it. Then to get the alignment like I talked about in this container, well, let's first see if I did anything on the upper container in terms of styling. We just put our 1140 max width utility class on there, and then in this container we have just two text boxes, one that says user email and one that says admin status. We put display flex row on it, put the padding so it aligned here, went a little font weight bold so the header stood out a bit, and then I think this background color I believe is our what we called our tertiary color, that lightest blue from the style guide, and then took off that min height again from the default container. And lastly, in the user email, just gave it that same width as the data row, same margin as well, and likewise for the admin status. Width of 100, margin right of 15. So let's look at this in live view. And noting here that I did create a new URL route for this. Here we go. Users admin, and then mapped it to that page. So now we'll go into live view and check it out. Great. So there's our 4 users that have already signed up. They have their admin status of 0. They have our button. All right, so I went and cleaned up my users table a bit. I wanted to get rid of one, so if I need to use it again later for another demonstration. So let's go now and create the actions to flag a user as an admin. So back in the studio, I want to do this a couple of different ways. Hopping back out of the studio, I have my make admin button where if I click that, it should change this to 1. Or I should be able to, now that I have this cursor here, I can click in there and type the number 1 and then save it on Bildr like we have on our lessons page. So let's build those out. I guess I'll start here in the list row on our admin status field. Remember, you can make an element like this editable so that you can click it and change it. And then you have this events pane where I can go on this option down here on Bildr to autosave it. And so that should handle the case where you just want to click in and change it. It should save in your data collection. But let's create an action for the button itself. So new action group, make user and admin. And now the action will be to set that element value to 1. So we want that element set value action, and we'll change our admin status field to a value of 1. And then in this case, we want to make sure it also not just changes the value in the UI, but I want to make sure it saves in the data. So I want to do a data update record. So in our users collection, we will take the admin status field, make sure it's set to 1. And then I'm also going to do something here to make sure the ID on that value is updated. So instead of text here, I'm going to do from a variable, which is from the current page, and the name of that variable is the ID. I think this is something that's going to be more fine-tuned in the future in action. You might not necessarily have to do that ID step, but we're going to do it here just to make sure everything gets updated. So now let's do that other step to connect the button to that action group, and then we'll test this. So action group, make user and admin. Let's refresh just to make sure that's there. And then we'll do this 2 ways. We will make myself an admin here by the button and make this test admin an admin. using the click and blur. And that's it. So now we'll go and require authentication for this page and for the lessons admin page, and then take that further step so that right now this Dan test can still get to these pages, even not flagged as an admin. So we want to make it so it's only if this is true, that if admin equals 1, that you can get to those 2 pages. Otherwise, you're going to get redirected to the home page. So let's go into the studio and do that. So the first thing I want to do is what we did on our course page, is that single click just to make sure this user's admin page requires authentication. So a signed in user. And then I want to create the first action, which is an action to open the home page, which we're going to use to redirect the non-admins after that. So that's very quick. We'll call it open homepage. And this is simply open a page into our browser tab or window. We'll leave it at current tab, and we'll do the page to open, which is the main URL there, which is our homepage. So now I'm going to do something interesting directly in the page load action group that exists by default. So opening this up, do something we haven't done in this course yet, which is using some of the built-in conditional logic that Bildr has in its action groups. So we're going to do this condition compare values, meaning we're going to look at the value of that admin status and then do one thing or the other based on what that value is. So hopefully it's pretty explanatory as I walk through it. So the value that I want to test is not text. It's that value from our user's data collection, the admin status. So we're going to look though at the current user, and then we want to know what to do if that status equals 1. So first thing, we want to make sure we have the right data format on it. We want it comma separated format. And then down here, it asks you, it gives you the default operator, which is nice, which is equal. And then the test value that we're checking this against is 1. So now we're looking at that field, seeing if it's 1. And then if that's true, we're going to do nothing, right? Because the page loaded. So if it's true, we're good. We can leave that user and let them use the admin page that they're on because they're an admin. But if it's false, we're going to open the home page. So they can't get to this page because it's going to check this value and immediately flip them to the home page. So I'm going to pause here and go build the same exact 2 actions on our lessons admin page. So the open the home page for the redirect and the conditionals to compare the values, and then pick it back up and show one other thing to do, which is to demonstrate this. I created let me zoom out a bit here, or actually collapse this. I created a sign out button, which doesn't have an action on it yet on the lessons admin page. I'm going to add a simple action group to that, which is to sign out the user. So what I'm going to do to demonstrate it then is I think I'll go in the order of signing in as my admin user, and then successfully getting to the admin page, signing out, and then signing in as a non-admin, and then making sure this redirects to our homepage. So I'll be back shortly once that stuff is set up. Okay, I added the same actions here on our admin page for lessons. So we have the open homepage action, and then in page load, that same condition compare values, checking admin status that it's 1, and then doing nothing if it's true and redirecting to the homepage if it's false. So another thing I pre-built out before this lesson, if you recall, this lessons admin header was in the center here. So I think I just did a couple tweaks to this container. I think, what did I do? I made, flex row, flex start space between, and then align center vertical so that the header was over to the left and that the sign out was over to the right, and the space was getting filled between, and then I put some padding on the left and right, so it looked nicer. So very simple action we want to add to this page now that button is there, is sign out user. Don't necessarily need this in this app, but I want to show how to do it. So it's shown how to do, because it can be useful if you wanted to put a sign out action in your app or in another app like this, but also to demonstrate what I'm going to do to just test that this admin functionality is working. So I'll get that action group, which is just this user sign out. And so action on success is the only thing we're going to do here, and we're just going to use that open homepage action that we already created. So when you click that button, it's going to open up the homepage. So you're signed out and then you're back home. So now let's connect our sign out button to our sign out action and then demonstrate this. Sign out user. Okay, so let's see what I'm going to do here. I'm going to go to the homepage. And I'm going to sign in first as an admin. So I think it was the admin test was one of them. Chrome definitely does not like all these repeated passwords I'm testing this on. So I'm signed in as an admin. I got taken to the course page, but now I'm going to go, instead of the course, I'm going to go to the lessons admin page. That worked. That should work because I'm an admin. Now let's just make sure that our sign out button works. Cool. So I'm signed out. Now let's sign in as the test user, which does not have admin status, and do the same thing. So that worked. We're at the course. Now let's see what happens. I get redirected when I try to go to the lessons admin page. So we are done here. We're getting very close to the end. The next thing we're going to do is add a little detail for what happens when you start moving your users off the waitlist, because we did it just because I was testing things out, and it was because I was taking myself off the waitlist. So I knew I was off the waitlist. I didn't have to tell myself. But when you have users on a waitlist, you want to have a nice way to say, hey, you can go and sign in now. So you could do that manually. You could take them off the wait list and then go and email them. Or if you know them, give them a call or a text. But what we're going to use is SendGrid again. And we're going to get a little bit into SendGrid, and we're going to have some dynamic email templates so that when you do take that action of taking the user off the wait list, that they're going to get sent another formatted email letting them know, hey, you're off the wait list. You can use the app now. Just sign in with your username and password. And then from there, we're super close. I'm not totally sure what order I'm going to go from there. We may just go and publish this. We're going to publish to both a Bildr subdomain and a custom domain that I purchased for this course. And then as I've been going, building out the resources page that has some instructions and external resources to learn more about some of the things that I'm using in terms of CSS and SendGrid. I'll just do a quick walkthrough of that page as a review, and then because it'll be in the pattern for you to use and access. And then speaking of patterns, I'll walk through how to share a pattern into the Bildr community so that someone else can essentially clone it and use it in their own projects. And this will be shared as a pattern so you can clone it and use it in your own projects. And I haven't actually done that yet in Bildr, so we'll just walk through it, doing it live for the first time myself. And that may be it. I may wing something and do something at the end, but we're very close to the end of the course here. See you in the next one.